On this episode of One-on-One, we're going to talk with Doug Hamilton. Coach Hamilton, to a lot of you, I've been knowing him for many, many years. As a matter of fact, I knew his family very well. They were right down the street on Austin Drive. But we've talked about dynasties over the years. We've talked about softball, where it started at Vanderbilt with Coach Albert, Coach Johnson. But we haven't given enough attributes to the soccer program at Vanderbilt. Coach Hamilton has many state championships. We'll tell you how many. He's been involved in many of them. But for a guy like me, we didn't have soccer unless we played it in PE with Coach Wander at St. Francis. Soccer was not part of the program at Vanderbilt. But when it got there, many state championships. We'll talk with Doug right after the break. Don't go away. One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. And welcome back to One-on-One. I'm Martin False. Once again, Coach Doug Hamilton, who's now in a different role at Vanderbilt. And I want to welcome you to One-on-One. Good to see you, Doug.
Thanks for having me, Martin. I appreciate you having me on the show. We've been here a couple of times, but I'm looking forward to having a good conversation with you.
Let's talk about your role now. Before we even get back to soccer and everything, because I have so many, although I didn't have your mom for typing. Matter of fact, I didn't take typing at Vanderbilt, which I should have because I was a journalism major, and at Nichols, I get thrown to the wolves with no typing. Of course, your mama was typing teacher. Miss Forshag was a typing teacher, but your mom was always just a super person and been knowing your dad for years. So I'm sure some of that had to wear off on you.
I would say for mom's still a wonderful person, as is dad. So those years, those times brings back a lot of memories for me. Earliest memories at Vanderbilt involved me helping mom bring her typing books or accounting books up the stairs to her room when I was just, 3-4 years old. So, of course, I got the typing skills that you didn't get. Suppose it had to do with me playing piano, and Miss Forshag taught me, and never had my mom as a teacher in the classroom. Of course, she taught me a lot at home.
I could even go further and talk about the Holland Sheds, right as you make the turn off of Austin Drive, and your grandparents. And it's funny the things we remember. They had that table that was around the tree, welded around the tree. And I thought that was the coolest thing as a kid, to have a table going around your tree.
And so did we. Not too long ago, the hurricane, I don't remember, it wasn't Ida, but the previous hurricane, the tree got so big, it started to split the metal apart. And, my parents actually live in that house now. So I obviously spent a lot of time on that round table around the tree.
I was not aware that they moved there. But
yes,
that's good.
They did. We didn't move out of the neighborhood. We just, switched houses, switched locations. That's right.
Austin Drive, I think last count had 13 people either involved in TV or music scoring. Of course, your Uncle George was big in music too, but some of the Greens worked with Mike Post on Hill Street Blues and a bunch of other things. So what a street.
That's right.
Everybody was pushing everybody.
And riding bikes, lots of great memories on Austin Drive.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. I want to sort of morph into, Vanderbilt. Okay. We know your history with Vanderbilt. We didn't have soccer when I was at Vanderbilt. I mean, we had the basic sports. We loved to play them. We didn't have cell phones. We all got out there and played sports and did certain things. Coach Wander, to his credit at St. Francis, allowed us to play soccer. So we all knew the the rules and everything, but we weren't playing soccer at St. Francis to go and play soccer at Vanderbilt because there was no soccer. Wasn't even soccer in the parish. Soccer hits everybody by storm. And y'all started amassing this soccer program at Vanderbilt. I compare it to the Coach Albert and Morgan Johnson's in softball. It was just so far advanced. Were you a big soccer enthusiast as a kid?
As a 78 grad, soccer came to Houma organized probably the year after you graduated. So the late 70s, early 80s, there were a group of dads that got together, and I remember Mr. Bob Schmidt. He had played on I think a Division III national championship team, and there were several others. I'm hesitant to mention all the names because I don't want to forget anyone, but there were several dads got together, knew a little bit about the game. Some of the priests knew about the game, and so you probably played in the CYO lot, okay? Coach Winder,
Yep.
I had him as well back in the St. Francis days. Bayou Soccer Association, which is kind of coincidentally is the current HTSA Soccer Association, went back to the original name. Anyway, long story short, there were a lot of dads who sort of knew the game, and my parents signed me up. They just signed me up. I'd played a little bit of baseball, and hey, let's go see what this soccer is about. And we did, and I think that was like 1978, 79, so played a little bit in elementary school. It was pretty much roll the ball out, run this way, run that way. And then when we got to high school at Vanderbilt, Mom, because we had done those couple of years, she agreed to be the first faculty moderator of the soccer team. And then Coach John Telford had been involved, and he and Coach Richard Daig, they were some of the first coaches that we had. And of course, there were a couple of us that played. I played my 8th grade year. That doesn't mean that I was good as an 8th grader. It just meant I was on the team because we didn't have that many folks on the team. Since that day or that year, 1981, 82, 83, I've been part of the soccer program, and sadly, this school year, is the first year I haven't been a coach, an assistant coach, a moderator, a player on the team.
But let me I don't know everything about soccer because it wasn't branded in my brain as a kid, but I'm intrigued by the amount of athleticism that it takes. I'm intrigued about the amount of stamina that it takes. I've gone and watched a few soccer games, and on some of them, after you had retired from coaching, I got you to announce them because I didn't know enough about soccer to announce the game. So let's just call it the way it is. But Eddie Cole had these cross-country and track teams at Edie White.
Right.
He just started a precedent, and they bought into it. And when they bought into it, watch out. It was just one after the other. Y'all reeled off, hope I get this right, y'all in the finals 16 times in soccer. Y'all won 9 state championships. 16 times in the finals. I would say that's a dynasty.
It's something we're very proud of. And, going back to Coach Telford and Mom, and you had to start somewhere, right? The LHSAA, the High School Athletic Association, didn't make soccer a state championship sport till 1986. That was my junior year. Unfortunately, the best we did when I was a player was tie for second, and we lost going to the playoffs my senior year by a tiebreaker rule. So, right after that, in the 88, 89, we started winning district championships. I think when I say we, I don't mean just me. I'm talking about the coaches and those that were before me and after me. We won something like 24, 25 district championships in a row, made the playoffs. And so immediately in 1990 was the first time that we made it to a state championship game, okay? My younger brother was on the team. So we played Episcopal School of Acadiana, and unfortunately we lost, but that started a sequence of events, and 90, 92, 93, 96, Then we had a little bit of a period of time where we didn't make the finals. That was about the time that St. Paul started being really good, so we would lose to them in the semifinals or something like that. Then when we started back up, and from 2002 to 2008 or 9, we played in 7 state championships in a row, 4 at home, and then 3 on the road. And then again in 15 we won it, in 18 we won it. We were in it several other times, and it continues to even 2 years ago, not this year, but the previous year, we made it to the finals. We lost to, so it's been a long run with a lot of success.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. How many state championships do you have personally? Is it 6?
6 as a head coach, that's correct.
Okay.
So,
and how many appearances? 8?
Actually, a few more than that, because when I became an athletic director, my assistant at the time was Matt Kelso. He became the head coach. I became his assistant. We lost a couple of state championships in the finals. But honestly, Martin, I appreciate you asking the question, but really, I just have enjoyed being part of the program in many different capacities. So
all coaches have a different way. I mean, we've had the rah-rah coaches before. We've had Coach Eddie Cole was about the quietest coach you could ever get in a room. I'm sure he walked in and he was talking to his team. He really had to listen. What were you telling these kids that they bought into this?
It's a little complicated. It's philosophical, and I realize we have a short time here, but I would say that my style has changed throughout my years. When you're a young coach, you're probably a little more fiery, right? And I certainly was. In the 1996 game, one of our players went down, serious injury, and I was pretty upset at an official and yelling. Got knocked out of the game, the helicopter. During the state championship game, we won the state championship, took the trophy to the hospital after. But I was pretty fiery. And then, I had a lot of coaching influences, both as a player and as a fellow staff member. I would say that it starts with, a dedication from the players and their families, okay? Mm-hmm. You can't mention our success without mentioning the success of the local club programs and the travel teams, because the more you do something, the more you're going to be good at it. Mm-hmm. I think if I had one special sauce, secret, that's not really a secret, philosophy, it was to teach them how to be champions in that 8th grade year. We put a lot of emphasis on our junior high program. I actually would schedule the games, even as the varsity coach. I would actually even go coach. I didn't miss very many junior high games. And so you get that continuity, I think, is what is part of the success. So that whole program approach, not just that you're worried about the varsity team, you got to worry about the junior
consistency.
Varsity. That's that
8th
consistency.
graders see what they're going to be doing when they're seniors.
I think they actually learned how to win against the top programs in Louisiana, Jesuit, St. Paul, Brother Martin, Catholic High, Baton Rouge, all those programs, we played them as 8th graders. Mm-hmm. And you get a lot of confidence as an 8th grader. If you can win a junior high game against a Jesuit or a St. Paul's, you're going to be in good shape. And that instilled a lot of confidence. But again, the dedication to the sport.
I always said it. I used to tell people when they'd ask me why was Coach Albert so successful when he started that girls softball. First of all, girls are very competitive. Secondly, he instilled in them a winning tradition that they won more of their games before the game started during warm-ups. When people would watch them warm up, I could hear it in the stands because I covered. That was my first events I covered. I could hear them going, oh my God, there's no way we'll beat this team. It was done right there.
I tell you, one of the state championship games that we won, we actually won the game 8-0 in a state championship game. And their coach said something in the newspaper that, I remember. It was one of the better compliments I think our program got. You know, he was being very gracious in defeat. And he said, you know, every young man who wants to play soccer wants to be a Terrier. You know, so that our program transcended just what we were doing in Houma. We tried to model our program based on pride, dedication, sportsmanship, all of those things. And by and large, I think we accomplished a lot of that. I think in ways we're still accomplishing it. And I don't think the final chapter is on Vanderbilt boys soccer is yet done.
How has soccer, and then we'll get to music and your wife being principal and everything. You knew I was going to have to take that shot, you know.
I did.
But soccer, I would imagine, the coaches all want players on their team, football, basketball. But sometimes you see that guy who's kicking that soccer ball about 60, 70 yards downfield, and you know that football coach is going, I need a field goal kicker.
That's right.
They work hand in hand, don't they?
They do. And a lot of coaches throughout the years have, you know, asked me, you know, why don't you have such a rigorous preseason? Okay, that was one of the questions I got. And it was because a lot of my players were either playing football or they were on cross country. Some of them were swimming. Before power rankings, you didn't have to be like the absolute best at the beginning of the season and risk some seeding. So I always took the approach, look, I'd rather be a little rusty at the beginning, and a lot of the guys would come, you know, from the sports I mentioned, and they'd be hungry. You can never underestimate the hunger that a student athlete has. That's more powerful. There are several state championship wins that the program has that we weren't necessarily the best team. But you earlier mentioned the program, the history. Even one year we started 4-11. And everybody's like, whoa, what's going on? You know, it's not Vanderbilt soccer. Well, we wound up winning 19 games in a row and the state championship because while we might not have been the most talented that year, I don't think you're going to find too many programs with more pride at the end of a season.
Yeah,
than we
you know,
do.
you can if you think you can. If you think you're beaten, you are. Life's battles don't always go to the strongest or the fastest, but to the one who thinks they can.
That's right.
Y'all instilled, we can
That's right.
win. When you get that in a player, you can't get it out of them.
Well, I tell you, I didn't even have to do a lot of that philosophizing with the team because the players before, I would see the team meetings, and they would have little meetings without me and say, "Look, youngins, we got a reputation to uphold," and it was a little difficult trying to get an 8th grader to play with a senior, you know, or a 9th grader playing with a junior, and it was hard on the older kids if they weren't the starter. But we tried to keep everybody engaged, everybody with the idea that you're contributing something to the program. And I think for many years, people bought into that philosophy. And if you were a sub or on the bench, you got the ring and you were just as important as the person who scored the most goals.
You might be the one to loosen them up or to be the locker room clown to get everybody a little loose for the game.
And we had some of those and we needed them.
Yeah. For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.